very interesting to see how this session, even though it was slightly last minute rearranged, was focusing more on impact than costs, but the impact nevertheless is both the contemporary impact and their perils to be made. But I think it worked very well on the rhetorical aspects in various different parts where there's absence of sources, there's some changes of sources, mistakes made on different parts. So I can open up the 4 questions. Yes, please.
Can I ask a question of the first 2 speakers, Trevor and Niall, about language? If one's dealing with medieval texts, and that's both chronicles as well as administrative records, there has to be a presumption, doesn't it, that all telling is essentially a retelling. And if I understand Trevor's paper, then it was that retelling that's crucial to understanding what Lancaster is trying to do. Though I wonder what he's retelling in the general sense. But my question to Niall is whether he worries about the apparently formulaic language of petitioning when it's always beastly things that are happening, and it's a very prescribed beastly list of these things, and whether the 2 of you, as it were, could swap techniques approaching their sources.
Yeah, I mean, I think, speaking of a Scottish historian, having access to any kind of administrative evidence, like the English stuff, is something of course, because there is so little from Scotland itself. So yeah, we don't. I wouldn't say I trust it, certainly I know, and yes, absolutely there is that formulaic element to these claims for recompense. But I think some are far more detailed than others. I mean, when you start getting one of the ones I mentioned, I can't remember precisely which one it is, but it does come up with this detailed list of, we lost the following. And yes, it could just be one big insurance claim, that you of course add to claim more back. But at least it does give a sense of what's being taken and the extent to which it does provide that loss to the local community, even if they're exaggerating, and even if they're still claiming it 10 years later. I think what I perhaps didn't quite emphasise quite as much as well is just the psychology of it as well. That this is almost repeat behaviour. This is what Northern English communities did in the 30s and 32s, although they were suffering at the same time. But they also, communities far from areas of Scottish raiding were also claiming for relief from taxation things because their neighbours up the road were doing it. And I think you do get that, and I think it's the psychology of the hard Scots effect. So they pick up this type of behaviour again. So while the detail, I certainly wouldn't trust it, but I think it tells us a lot about what's going on with the mind of those in Northern England.
It's almost as if those Northern English communities are paying tax to the Scots government rather than to the English government.
Well, they effectively are at various points, yeah.
So that's a very thorny question. Authorship, retelling stories, things like that. I might be able to do more, but I haven't been able to do the study of those 3 texts, and nobody's really done a very thorough comparative study. I think the article that looks at them together is like 15 pages. It's very short, doesn't really deal with it. And there's no transcription of the Durham text. So if I hope to do it someday, but I would have to do that before I really engage with this question of where are these things coming from. But in the end, I think that we have the Lanarkos Chronicle, and everything was a conscious decision by the final person copying it to include. He could have taken anything out that he wanted to. And so I think it's justified comparing it to the Anniv Chronicle, for example, and how they treat the same subject differently. And supposedly, the argument goes that they both drew from the same source. One wasn't a copy of the other. But the point is that they each one had their choice of how they're going to treat it. And they each treat it in very different ways. So if you look at Lanarkos in comparison to Anniv, for example, I think it really highlights the intention and what's going on with it. And again, my cop-out is that in the end, the final text that we see was still deliberate, even if it may have been from something else. And that's how most texts are. I mean, a lot of Chaucer is taken from other texts too, but it's still his own spin on it, as it were. If that's it.
Just for the first reader, speaker, sorry. What impact did the Scottish raids have on the gentry's participation in overseas campaigns in Northern England?
Yeah, I mean, I think I asked this the paper, was it Southampton, the archers as well, the extent to which, but you have Northern England is effectively given over to, you know, this is your job. Your job is to protect Northern England. Don't do anything else. Don't go and fight in France because you're needed here. And I think that is something that does happen. And one of the obvious examples is the siege of Dunbar in 1338. The Earl of Salisbury and are besieging Dunbar. They were the thirds off to the Low Countries, and they're sitting at the bar going, hang on, why are we sitting here? And they effectively pack up and leave. But of course, this doesn't go down particularly well with Edward III, who leads Dunbar captured. It's a permanent thorn in the flesh. So no, I think that the Crown does spend a considerable amount of time trying to convince Northern Englishmen to do their job, stay where they are, because the law does rumble on. It doesn't stop. Scotland, Edward III may turn his back on Scotland, but the Scottish don't. And yes, it's that change that when the Scots start then descending on Northern England again at everybody, and even after Neville's Cross, even after the Scots get knocked back again. You know, the war does rumble on into the 1350s. It doesn't stop. It's a kind of semi-permanent, you know, thing. And without the active involvement of the Northern English gentry and you know, as a military entity, you know, they can't continue that. The disinherited, who are the other partner in all this for the English, can't continue the war themselves because they don't have the support. So no, the Northern English involvement is crucial to carrying that on.
Because they're in a predicament, aren't they? Because, like you said, they're missing out.
Yeah.
It's part of their identity. You know, especially when the news comes in, 1345, the tide turns. They want to be part of this collective campaigns, this resurgence, don't they, overseas? And yeah, it's like a sort of inherent responsibility to them. So it's quite different, that part, like the military community, do you know what I mean? And
well, I mean, Andy will be able to speak on this more than me, I would suggest. But yeah, I mean, I think I would suggest, well, I'm assuming that after 1357 things changed with the Treaty of London. Treaty of Berwick, sorry. With peace being signed between Scotland and England, that things will then change. In fact, it's after 1357 you start seeing Scots serving in English army because they're freed up to do it. They're freed up to earn money and become, you know, paid soldiers as well. So yeah, it's interesting to see the shifts all the time.
We'll have another Anniv.
Well, actually, it's interesting how much you do get people from Northern England serving in France, even when you think they would be, people serving at Cressy in 1346 from Northern England, when you think,
yeah, should be a whole.
yes. So I don't think they sort of see it as a separate theatre of war. I think rather it's the King's Wars, and they tend to see it as whole to some extent. So just against more of an observation, following on Luke's comments. How much did the sort of collusion in sort of talking up the damage? There's some inquest in 1346 into the amount of damage from Scots from, I think it was Thomas Luso. And when you look at the estates which claim were burned and compare that with the Scottish invasion route, half of them are nowhere near the Scots. So of course the Inquisition is held by local lords who are, they've got a vested interest in talking the whole thing up.
No, I mean, I think that is the case, and yes, natural suspicions over various communities claiming recompense or tax relief when, yes, they're nowhere near anywhere Scots are likely to be. I mean, those three Yorkshire Abbeys, there's a series of Yorkshire Abbeys as well, although there's a Nostell Priory and somewhere else now that claim money. They don't win anything the Scots going to do anybody, but they do have a station in Northumberland. So I think there is that element of it, that it's not maybe the indirect impact of war, or it's lands they have elsewhere, or things that they have money tied up in. These are the religious communities, especially, are such businesses that I think they are affected by war, even if it's not by direct damage. So I have another point I forgot what it was.
So one thing to worth looking at is deeds where you have reference to potential war damage from the Scots. You get quite a few deeds which were saying leases, for instance, which make allowance for if you can't collect the rent,
Mm.
and sort of tracking how these sorts of changes. You do get parcels which make no leases which make no such.
Okay.
I think even at the height of Scottish.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Or when you think there's lots of Scottish.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's.
Okay. Yeah, change the attitude. Yeah. Okay. Back to the back.
A question to Han. Since 1411, the Gascons didn't need delisation because they complained to the Parliament of England about the fact they were nicknamed by some Englishmen as aliens. And so, apart from the Gascon wars, what do you see? Where we can find, according to you, mentions of exiled Gascons, because it's quite hard.
I think it is. It's fair to say, though, that there are some letters of denisation. It's true for other groups as well that, in theory, didn't need them, but nonetheless do get them. I think it is an aspect that would repay further study, looking at both the Normans who came to England and the Gascons in 1453. There was hostile reactions. There is a document in the College of Arms, in one of the Arundel manuscripts there, which is one of these petitions, like these other documents that you get, complaints against the Duke of Somerset and other people for the loss of the lands in 1450. And one of the things in there is that foreign women shouldn't be admitted to this land because they are but as spies. Quite a lot of English soldiers in Normandy were bringing home their foreign wives. So maybe you get the same sort of problem. It would be a topic that I think someone could usefully look at. I'd imagine that the London records would be worth a look at as well, and probably other chancery enrolments. I think certainly Paidetas' career would be worth doing. It would be a very good PhD, I think, to look at the sort of impact and on attitudes as well. And also, it's fair to say, there were other thoughts about the recovery of the lands, and within France there is ample evidence to suggest that the French thought the English were going to come back again. What we know of the garrisoning of Normandy in the 1450s indicates that. So because we have to shorthand history, so to speak, we sort of say Normandy and Gascony are lost, and that's the end of it, and Henry VI goes mad, and we have the Wars of the Roses. We don't look at what else is happening in the 1450s.
Because we know the end.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's why they built fortresses at Bordeaux, two fortresses.
It's the same problem.
The
Yes.
and one at
Yes.
Bayonne.
Yes.
So because
Yeah.
in the past, like during the fair at the early 14th century and other occasions, Aquitaine, for example, had been recovered. So it was not at all impossible to think the English
would come back in.
Yeah.
The other thing that would be worth looking at, Ralph Griffiths started doing this, is to look for English soldiers in the musters in France after 1450, and there certainly are some. Members of the Davenport family, for instance, are known to have stayed there. I would reckon that there are some in Gascony as well who stay on.
I mean, related point, man. I was wondering whether there are any other English institutions that have property, for example, in Bordeaux, that have a continuing interest. Certainly when Calais ruled in the 1550s, there were Oxbridge colleges with
Yes.
property.
Yes. My colleagues in the back are the experts on this, really.
You mean religious orders or
Yeah.
something like that? As far as I know, no.
Which just shows how different Calais is. I don't think Harfleur, although Harfleur had a very large number of houses granted in it to the English, I'm not aware of any grants made to English institutions.
Any more questions?
I'll just ask Trevor something. I think the use of the passive in Chronicles is very interesting because the killing of the prisoners at Agincourt is often expressed in that way. An order, the Gesta Henrici Quinti has, an order went out that all the prisoners should be killed. either it is deliberately detaching the agency from it, or else it's just a grammatical form that we shouldn't make too much of. But the other thing that struck me about the Lanercost Chronicle, particularly that De Domo Davidi, is just how many in-jokes there were in monastic communities. These chronicles are written, aren't they, for people who would fall about laughing with that. There are quite a lot of Latin texts of this sort that seem rather contrived to us, but were written for a particular audience. They weren't written for 21st century historians.
I struggled going through it the first time. I had no idea what was going on. I think with the passive voice, I think if it's consistent, then you can say something, but if it's just sort of in one isolated case, then I don't think you can know, but it suggests something at least, especially like with Lanercost, where it is consistently done that way.
That's very interesting.
And then with all the justifications as well going with it. But yeah, the in-jokes thing, it's ridiculous. And this doesn't come across in the translation. They don't talk about it. You have to really get in there and really, say, well, who is this guy? Why are they making this reference to this Ahab, Achab character? Who is that? You have to do some research. What's going on? And you have to go. And they thought they were funny. But all the references, there's very few classical allusions in Lanercost, which I thought was interesting, because a lot of other texts have a lot more. Like even Baker has about, I think maybe a third of his references and quotes are classical, whereas there's just small allusions here and there, nothing.
Thank you.
You're talking about the students of the 13 looking in detail, I wonder whether it's actually more to do with the internal politics of Northumberland, but the politics of Northumberland. There's a sort of particular clique by Cooper who's trying to pick up past to use against his rivals, rather than being the crown and trying to do it. Because you actually get a bit from the crown saying, what's going on, why are all these students doing sense to Cooper? So I don't know whether it's actually anything from the centre, but more perhaps a thing, using past to sort of go up against the
But yeah, absolutely. But interesting as well, because Coupland's such a certainly has climbed the ladder, but because of his involvement in the English conflict, because he's the man who gets his teeth knocked out and captures the second. It's a good point actually. I should do that.
Very last book.
Question for Ian. Was there much in the way of counter-raiding by the English during this period? Or was it sort of one-sided as it seems still?
Yeah, I mean, there's the large-scale invasions in the 10th obviously, but yeah, there are some counter-raids. I think most of it seem to happen on the west side actually. I think Anthony Lucy is involved in a couple that, it's the Scots raid and then the English raid back over the border to chase them back probably, but also then to take compensation. I think in one of the cases that the Scots take their booty, their cattle over the border, but then are caught up by the English who take them back again. And you have this. It must have been mentally a very bizarre picture of the cows running one way and then running back the other. But it is recorded, so you actually get the numbers. I think one of the cases I referred to, that one of the 2,000 fat beasts, that is actually it's an Inquisition, but I think the figures are probably correct because the English actually recaptured the booty that the Scots have been trying to take away. So yes, there is at times, and I think yes, that's where we get more into, I think, more organised English border defence, or at least it's reactionary defence that works in that they're able to catch the Scots eventually. The Scots don't just. It's not quite the situation that you get in 3010s and 3020s where the Scots are like ghosts wandering around Northern England. Nobody knows where they are and nobody ever catches them. It is different in the 3010s and 40s. I think a different command structure. Different abilities, I think, in Scottish leadership. But no, that would, yes, perhaps provide a slightly skewed view of things.
But one of the key roles, I'm afraid, of the moderator is to stick to the time. So I have to do that because we all have to eat at some point.
We do indeed,
on
yes.
time, so with the key organizer here, I wouldn't want to. So please join me in to thank all three speakers for three stimulating questions.
I wish there was like an Oxford version.